Okay, so can we just talk about, just for 1 minute, go with me here, what it's like to be in your mid-30s and single as single can get? I'm quite passionate about this topic, and it might be because, I'm in my mid-30s and I'm as single can get. It's something I just wanted to talk about today, and I thought it'd be interesting to do more of like a podcast and a video. And there's a lot of feels going on today, and I just had to throw them out there. So, single life, it's interesting, right? And not like interesting when your friend asks about their new outfit and it's the strangest thing you've ever seen and you don't want to say anything bad about it because they really like the outfit. So when you answer, you say, it's interesting, kind of interesting. I mean, like, interesting, like, the good vibes and challenges a single life has presented over time. At least for me in the last 2 years. Being single is something I've never really truly appreciated until the past few years. When I was a little girl, I always envisioned myself being married with children by the time I reached my mid-20s. And so did my friends, and we would always talk about, getting married, having children. That seems to be the norm, right? And as time passed, I watched my friends become wives, husbands, and parents, and Kathy just stayed single, living that single life. And I remained single, and I wasn't sure why. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about the wondering why. But I will say that I fixated a lot on the fact I was single for many years. And when you fixate on something like that, it can depress you. And it totally did with me. And it was hard to focus on the good in life. And there's a lot of good in life to focus on besides having a romantic relationship. And we'll get into that later. But I was just so fixated on the fact that I was still single and I was forever alone. And it was just hard to move past that. And I wasted a lot of my years focusing on that. And I wish, looking back now, I could change it to where I could appreciate life more. That's about as philosophical as we're going to get today. You hear a lot of things when you're single, like, oh, there's plenty of fish in the sea. You'll find that special someone someday. And that's true. That's all true. I'm not going to throw those words away. Sure, one day that might happen, but it's still hard to watch the world rotate and you're just kind of standing still. And when will I get to find that someone to share my life with? When will I experience motherhood? When am I going to find someone who can tolerate how incredibly obsessed I am over Benedict Cumberbatch? When am I going to have children who are embarrassed by the fact I'm obsessed over Benedict Cumberbatch? There's a lot to put into thought there. But I don't know. And I pray to God about it, right? Because I like to think God and I are pretty cool. And I'm like, God, I really want a man. And he's just like, not yet. It's hard to argue with God, right? So he says he's got other plans for me, and I'm like, cool, but like, could you fill me in on what those are? And like, can you give me like a timeline? Because I would love to, to know what's going down. So it was a huge struggle for me to accept the single life. And as I surpassed my mid-20s and I approached 30, I got incredibly distraught about the whole thing because I felt like time was running out. Granted, I was only 30, and here I'm approaching my mid-30s, but I started to realize how much the negativity of being single, like, weighed me down. And, like, it's not a bad thing being single, but, like, I focused on the bad things more than the good things, and I realized how much I was weighing myself down. And when I weighed myself down with my own thoughts, I would let in outside statements from other people. And it's not necessarily that when these things were said to me, they were meant in a bad way. It's just things that fueled the fire of my depression. Like, when are you gonna settle down? You're not getting any younger. Do you have a boyfriend yet? Why not? And my favorite, why don't you have kids? Don't you want someone to take care of you when you're old? Those are all questions that I've been asked sometime in my life. And heads up, I don't recommend asking any of those questions to someone who is single. Please don't. It was hard for me to work past my own negative thoughts to begin with, and like those thoughts would just kind of fuel the fire, and it would be really hard to work past that state of mind. Those questions would really amplify the fear of me being alone for the rest of my life. And also, just a disclaimer, like, I know each person faces questions like this regardless of where they are in life. Like, first it's, do you have a boyfriend? Next it's, when are you two getting married? And then, when are you two having children? And then people, just go from there. It's a never-ending chain of unsolicited questions. Everybody struggles with that in some shape or form, so I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that these are challenges that I'm currently facing that I can speak on because I'm going through it. I'm completely open to hearing about challenges from other people, what they struggle with in their life, and truly... sir, if you're out there listening to this, if you just want to add to the conversation, I'm open to discussion. So I know each person has their own journey, fighting against criticisms of anything they're going through, not even just relationships, but like work and friendships and everything. Everybody's got an outside opinion that you don't necessarily need to hear. So I'm just saying, this is mine, you know. It's horrifying to think of myself as an elderly woman who spent her entire life waiting on the adventures of a family life. You know, I spent so many years just, when am I gonna get that piece of the pie that everybody else has? But soon I realized that there was more to life than that. And I started to pursue adventures of my own. And why not spend the time I have to myself, finding solitude in being by myself? And not like being content, not, you know, being the introvert I am, but just going out and exploring the world and discovering all the beauty in it and all the cool stuff that there is to see and do, and just to enjoy myself and discover more about myself until the time comes when hopefully I have a family of my own. So I started to go on day trips when I had time off, and my goal, because there's a bit of social anxiety, my goal every time I would take off work for a few days or an extended weekend or whatever, I would at least go out once by myself to somewhere I didn't ordinarily frequent, and I would just do something cool. And, you know, I would go to the lake, take a nice walk around the lake. Recently I went to the beach by myself, and I mean, it's not always in nature and, you know, some deep philosophical time of meditation. Like, honestly, a few weeks ago I went to the comic book store. I spent hours looking through comic books. And it may sound funny, but those adventures truly help me appreciate who I am as a person. I'm learning more about myself, and I'm finding it easier to open up to others, and I'm finding peace with leading the single life, and in doing so, I'm opening up more to people and becoming more social. Standing on my own in public on these little adventures is helping build confidence in being out in the world and creating more friendships and making the ones that exist stronger. And it's a beautiful thing. And the questions that once weighed me down, they're not silent, but they've quieted down a great zeal. And what's louder is this huge appreciation for what's around me. Instead of obsessing and yearning for a relationship with a romantic partner, I'm diving deeper into the friendships that are already existing in my life. And it's a beautiful thing. And there's a peace in knowing that I'm not struggling on my own, that I'm not the only person in this world who's fighting something in their life, some demon. Everybody has their demons they face. And sharing my own and hearing about other people fighting their own demons. It's just, I don't even know how to describe it, but it really helps me through my life. So for someone who spent much of her younger adulthood in the darkness that surrounded a single life, I'm growing into finding the joyful aspects of it. And one day I hope to have a family of my own, but for now I don't mind continuing the journey and taking my little adventures. As like I said, it's a very interesting one. Thanks for listening.